I should probably go change. I think this is better. I will be reading off a script because I cannot remember anything. It was brought upon me to record my journey of painting. Let's clarify some things right off the bat, though. I may or may not be heavily inspired by COVID. Nevertheless, that is besides the point. I was thinking the other day, even though it was a whole month ago, that I should paint one of my true sources of happiness, my hamster, Marz. This is Marz. She's one of the best things ever. Ever. Marz is spelled M-A-R-Z. Thank you very much. The palette. I have a thing with the palette I was using. This sucker was layered with so much paint. It was gunked on with mountains and mountains of paint. I fought my battles here and there. At first I tried running it underwater, like rubbing it a little bit, but obviously that didn't work. And then I decided that wasn't enough and took a flathead screwdriver to it, of which I regret so much. For some reason my brain was not thinking correctly and didn't think about the fact that this palette is indeed wood. There were some splinters sticking out from the palette, and I did check Walmart like later before I almost started the painting if they did have any other wooden palettes, but they did not. Unfortunately, I was stuck with the chip palette. Anyways, first I had to think of a background, and as you may see in later clips, I'm not one with making a background. Not at all. The concept I came up with was her floating head with a pink and yellow blend. I feel as though Marz speaks volumes with the color yellow. She's eccentric like yellow, and her fur is kind of yellow. I don't know, she kind of resonates with yellow for me. I don't know. Pink, because why not? Then I painted the sides of the canvas because you should always paint the sides. It makes the painting look a lot fuller in a sense. I traced the picture off my computer of Marz because there's no way in hell I'm gonna try to draw her on straight onto the canvas because I know for a fact I will mess up. What I usually practice is putting charcoal on the back of the paper of which I will trace, and I take cotton swabs, smudging the charcoal into the paper. I redid the process a second time because I wanted the charcoal to actually show up on the canvas when I traced it. Sometimes it doesn't work like how I would like it to. Luckily it worked, but now comes the scary part, of which I don't usually do for my particular paintings. However, this painting is a special one. Why not try something new? I made an underpainting. Please don't ask. I am very unknowledgeable on the subject of underpaintings. I was clueless when it came to this task at hand. I was a lost sheep in the woods without his mother, ready to be eaten up by any predator. The way I executed this was by putting darker shades in the dark parts of her face and lighter shades in the lighter parts of her face. You see where this is going? I took a cream and nutmeg brown and used those as the underpainting colors. As I've said previously, I do not know anything about underpaintings other than it's under the painting. Truthfully, I don't think this helped as much as if I were to just slap on some paint how I usually do. I mean, yeah, it did help guide me in the right directions, but there's so much that I need to learn about painting. It was pretty fun to paint away. Keep in mind I haven't painted in months. This was a painting I ran into blindfolded, lights out. Regardless, the underpainting was probably one of my favorite parts of the whole ordeal. When I first started to add bits of color, it was going pretty decent for a second until I decided to work on her nose, her snout. It was not pleasant. It looked like her nose was bleeding and it did not look great at all. I was not happy with how that turned out, and yet I still worked on her snout for a little longer. I was ruining the piece as each second passed by. I thought maybe I'd get a refresh if I moved on, so I moved on to her ears, hoping I'd come back to her snout ready to defeat the world or something. The ears weren't as bad. In fact, another part of the painting of which I liked a lot. However, they ended up a lot more purple than her actual ear color. If you haven't noticed, also, I've been working with acrylics. I don't know how to use oil paints. They're scary. Anywho, if you aren't aware, acrylics dry in about 2 seconds. Not really what I was aiming for in this piece. I wanted at least semi-realism, and blending was not helpful either. I did later on kind of find a better way to blend the paints up. I kind of just took a big brush and tried to move the paint around. Can we talk about how I didn't think the paint on the palette would coagulate while under the beating sun? I have so much to learn, don't I? The bozo painting the painting didn't think about the acrylic drying even faster under the blinding sun. Anyways, Anguish was building up inside me as I reverted back to painting her snout and nose. It was a bloodbath, zero joy left. I was throwing anything at the painting at this point, desiring it would somehow resemble that of a hamster. And with that concludes day 1 of painting Mars. There were many days where I wouldn't work on this painting because of the snout incident. I was immensely broken by its horrific attacks. It was mocking me and pestering me. The harassment this painting has done to me at this point was unforgivable. I was many times close to throwing away the painting, this close to trashing the whole thing, but I kept my head high. I trudged on until I got to this day. I got a whole lot of things done this day. I made a lot of progress when painting this day. I don't know why. I don't know. In the clip, you'll see a little bit of a change though. I did fix up her snout at this point in time. Was I fond of it? No, absolutely not. I decided not to record those days because it was honestly too much of a hassle to get out the tripod and paint when her snout was talking down to me. Most of the time I painted her fur. This led to further chaos of the sorts because I already kind of messed up on her eyeballs. I made her look a bit more elderly than she already was, and by the end of the day I was crushed, exhausted, hammered down into nothing but a tiny green pea. Woefully taking defeat once more. Fortunately, I got a lot of work done, chipping away at the painting, and I was looking forward to the near future. We have come to the ending! As aforementioned, I was exhausted. This led to working on the painting a bit again off camera. It was too much of a hassle at this point. I was so close to just scrapping this whole thing, this whole project. Most of what I did off camera was fix her droopy eyeballs and make her look like her youthful self again. And today was cleanup. Whiskers and her eyes. There was a recurring conflict with me on the right side of her face in the painting. It looked really funky and it was not pleasing or any eye candy of the sorts. Turns out whiskers are hard for an amateur like me. It was pretty fun painting the whiskers, yet I covered it up in the end with pink paint because it looked like white sticks were coming out of her face. And finally, the most anticipated moment in the history of painting. I was mortified by the thought of messing up with how far I've come. But it was time to paint her eyes. This part wasn't as bad either. It was to my liking, however, without fully, I guess, making her eyes the prominent part of the piece. I didn't want to straight up just slap black paint onto the painting. That would have been a bold move, and I am, for one, not that. So I took a lighter shade called Pavement and used that instead. I had to move the painting closer to me because it was a terrifying experience, like holding on to my mom when meeting new people, shy things. With given information, I added the highlights and some depth into her eyes so that she doesn't look like a lifeless bug. And just like that, bada bing, bada boom, I'm done with the painting. I signed it and named the piece Spaceship to Mars. I got Mars' reaction on camera when she woke up to get water. What do you think, Mars?
It's you.
I will conclude with saying there are so many things about this painting that I feel indifferent and unenthusiastic about, such as one side of her face is more rounded than the other side. I tried covering up the more rounded side. That didn't work at all. Her ears are too purple and her whole snout is kind of disastrous. Well, you get what I mean. I could go on, but I won't. Mars' face is too perfect to paint correctly. This is Spaceship to Mars. Yeah, that's kind of it. It looks a lot better in person, I swear. Thank you for coming along on this expedition with me. And all I gotta say is I love Mars, and thank you for watching.